He has traveled from Norway to Sweden, to several countries in Europe and Africa, to many states in the U.S. He has touched many lives through his kindness, easygoing spirit, and sense of humor. His strength of character and self, his humble intelligence, and his ability to move forward in life despite physical challenges and obstacles has inspired many. When you meet him, you never forget him. When you meet him, you carry with you forever the strength and positive energy he so effortlessly shares. He was born in the Dark Ages, in the state of California, where he spent most of his childhood years. As a high school student, he and his family moved to Oklahoma City, his father being an oil executive with Mobil. In 1964, he graduated from an OK City High School and then headed to Norman, Oklahoma, where he earned his master's degree in psychology in 1971 from the University of Oklahoma. He moved to Grand Canyon in 1972 and worked various jobs for the Fred Harvey Company on the South Rim. He also spent time as a North Rim employee. He then headed down to Phantom Ranch, where he worked for an unprecedented 12 years. After leaving the ranch, he began a new career with the National Park Service. His tours of duty as an interpretive ranger began in 1987 in Walnut Canyon, then Herbert Hoover Historic Site, and finally back to Grand Canyon, where he and his wife Nancy retired in 2008. While working for the National Park in Grand Canyon, he was an active member of our local Grand Canyon Lions Club from 1994 through 2008, and served as both treasurer and president. He is also an honored recipient of the Melvin Jones Award, the most prestigious Lions Club award given for dedicated humanitarian services. He is currently the treasurer of the Grand Canyon Historical Society. Although he has traveled the world, his heart remains in Grand Canyon, having been an avid inter-canyon hiker, an incredibly well-versed historian, and an active participant in our community for 37 years. His contributions of time, effort, and knowledge of the human history of Grand Canyon have all helped to make our community a better place. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our 2012 commencement speaker, my dear friend, Keith Green.
Wow, how's the guy live up to that? Mark is talking about the students getting a brain. Well, that guy had so much of a brain it blew their hats right off their heads while they were coming up. Well, anyway, hi, hello. Hello, graduates. Hello, teachers, parents, students, everybody else. I'm so really flattered to be asked to speak here. I guess a guy in the last third of his life, I guess that's where I am. As a guy in the last third of my life, I can look back on life and maybe give you some pointers, those of you who are in the first third of your life. Hopefully. The first thing that came to my mind is this question. What are you going to be when you grow up? God, I hate that question. I know you guys haven't been asked it 100 million times, and yet you even ask yourself, what am I going to be? I don't know. What am I going to be when I grow up? Well, I'll pick something. What? The truth is that you can't know what you're going to be when you grow up. You won't know until the year maybe 2100 when you're in your dotage looking back at your life. Oh, that's what I was going to be when I grow up. Certainly you can dream and go for one thing or another, whatever you feel like, whatever you want to do, but things change, things happen. This is how, this is how I see it. I don't know what you would call it. You could call it God. You could call it, I don't know, the Great Spirit. You could call it the universe. You could call it fate. But something provides opportunity as you live your life. Something provides you with opportunities, some of which can take you in directions that you can't even imagine today. Ask any older person. Ask your parents. They'll tell you. Something happened somewhere in their life that changed everything forever. Maybe more than once. Some seemingly insignificant decision that you make sometime in the next couple of years could change your life forever. The trick is to see these opportunities, to see them for what they are, and to decide, do I want to take a chance here? This sounds like fun. This sounds like what I want to do. Or, no, I don't want to do that. That will ruin my life. You have to decide. The only thing I can do is, in terms of giving examples, is tell you my story. I was graduating from high school in Oklahoma City, John Marshall High School in Oklahoma City. I was already blind. I had, legally blind at least, and I had a C average, and I took some tests, and my counselor said, well, you know, I think that you probably couldn't make it in college. I would suggest you go to a trade school for the blind, maybe. I wanted to go to college. And you know what? One of those opportunities came. Somehow, somewhere, we figured out that there was a way to get a scholarship, even for me. And it was a scholarship that would pay my tuition, at least, and my parents could handle the room and board, so great, I got to go to college. I loved college. You guys, if you guys get a chance, if you can do it at all, do it. College is amazing because the numbers of opportunities, the numbers of ideas, the numbers of realities that you find in college, it just blows your mind. It's amazing how much stuff, how many different ways of thinking there is. For me too, college helped me learn how to think for myself. It never really got me a job. It helped me though. It helped me get jobs. But I think it's definitely worth it. Anyway, my favorite classes were philosophy and history. Oh man, you know that question, what are you going to do when you grow up? Be a philosopher? I don't think so. Well, maybe if you wrote a book and sold 1 billion copies, maybe, but philosopher, a historian? Well, so I went, I think I'll do psychology. I'll take psychology. And it still meant I could take the philosophy and history courses I wanted to, so I took psychology. And I liked college so much that I didn't even leave after I got my bachelor's. I stayed for a master's degree. But finally, I was thinking, now, you know, I really need to start making a living. And I started looking for a job. It was 1971. Were you guys even born yet? 1971. 1971 was another one of those years where there were a lot of people out of work. Nobody could get a job. I remember a newspaper article about a guy who had a PhD in psychology, and he'd been reduced to driving taxis in New York City. The same kind of environment as far as employment goes as we have now. But one day I was walking out of the employment office in Oklahoma, and there was an ad that was written so big that even I could see it. It was an ad that said there was a guy coming from the Grand Canyon that was going to recruit for summer jobs on the south rim of the Grand Canyon. Well, you know, there was nothing going on in Norman, Oklahoma, so I applied for it. And by God, I got a job. Washing dishes at the Bright Angel Lodge. I took a bus from Norman, Oklahoma to the South Rim. Little did I know that that bus ride was going to change my life forever. Remember I said seemingly insignificant decisions that you make could change your life forever? There's one of them right there for me. I came here and of course, I was the only guy with a master's degree washing dishes at the Bright Angel Lodge. And I was the only guy that stayed all summer, but the reason why is that I found the Grand Canyon. I walked into the canyon every chance I could. The serenity and the beauty of the Grand Canyon opened up a whole new world to me. And so, my life was changed from a psychologist, radical student in Oklahoma to a peace-loving person that loved nature. Here I was enjoying this canyon, and a blind person can hike in the canyon. I'm not totally blind, but I hate to tell you this, but the Bright Angel Trail and the Kaibab Trail, the two maintained trails, you can almost walk down those with your eyes closed. Not really, I definitely don't recommend it, but you can feel it. You can feel the trail with your feet. Anyway, down the trail I went, down the trail, and I got to know the people down at the bottom, down at Phantom Ranch. I told them I'd sure love to work there and have a job, because then I'd be in the middle of this natural world. I could really develop philosophies of the natural life. And what do you know? One of those opportunities came up. Again, where did it come from? Don't know, but a bunch of the employees at Phantom Ranch decided they wanted to go off to the East Coast and start a factory building guitars. So, hey, there was a bunch of openings at Phantom Ranch, and the manager knew I could hike down there, and so he gave me the easiest job he could think of, because all he saw was my blindness. I don't know. To me, when somebody says the only thing you can do is such and such, it's just a challenge. I can show you I can do more than that. And so that was how I looked at it. And the next manager saw my point, and before long I was running the cash register and selling beer in beer hall, and even waiting tables and cooking. There was a blind cook at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. I didn't like that very well, but anyway, eventually, I learned two things. Well, one thing I could do when I was down there, it was the neatest thing for a historian. Here I get to do that too, because that's what I like to do. And there were people that would come that had not been there for 10 years, and they could tell me what it was 10 years ago. And I eventually wrote one of the first histories of the bottom of the canyon, of Phantom Ranch anyway. I ended up also learning that I really, really like to tell people about the canyon and get them all interested in what it's like, what all kind of things there are to do. And so, things went on, and eventually I met this woman named Nancy Rivas, and she loved the Grand Canyon too. And we fell in love with each other and got married, and that's how come some of you know Mrs. Green. But she was a school teacher, and there's not any schools at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So we had to start all over again. Now look at this. I'm going to show you, I think, here how this opportunity thing worked. At least works for me. You can't just sit around and wait for opportunities to show up. They might, but probably not. The way I did it is this. Well, I had always dreamed of being a movie theater having a movie theater that showed avant-garde art films, and so I saved a little bit of money at Phantom Ranch, and I bought a couple of projectors, and but I was able to find projectors that were self-focusing, so I could show movies, a blind person showing movies, and I did. I showed a bunch of really cool movies until I ran out of money. So that didn't work. I ended up grating cheese at Charlie's in Flagstaff, grating cheese, making anyway, just a really bad job, I thought, at Flagstaff, but it was a job. We went by the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps were able to say, well, we could give you a two-year stint maybe in Tunisia. Okay, well, that sounded like an opportunity might open up there, but it hadn't yet. We happened to go to a bookstore, and we found a book, which I definitely recommend. It's called What Color Is Your Parachute? And you have to buy the book because you have to write in it. It's a whole bunch of exercises, and through those exercises, you figure out kind of what the kind of stuff is that you really like to do, and then it pairs that with possible jobs. Well, one of the possible jobs was park ranger. Now, when I was at Phantom Ranch, I hate to say this, but park rangers were the enemy. But okay, I'll try it. Why not? That's, talking to people, getting them excited about the natural wonders. I went to the closest national park, which is Walnut Canyon. I did apply here, but I never got anything back out from here. But at Walnut Canyon, they said, no, we've already hired all of our seasonals, but we'll take your name. 2 weeks later, God, the universe did it again. They said, I got a phone call from Walnut Canyon. They said some of the people they'd hired to be permanent, to be seasonals that year, one of the persons had taken a job someplace else, so they had a job opening. And because I had a disability, there's a certain way that the government can hire you immediately without having to go through all the rigmarole they usually have to do to hire somebody. And so they could hire me immediately. I was there, and bing, I was a park ranger. Oh my goodness. But I had taken anthropology in college, and I knew how to do research, and before long knew what there was to know. It doesn't take much, really, to know more than most tourists about a national park. And I kept studying and eventually knew even more, and was able to get pretty good programs. Went to Herbert Hoover Historic Site to study history. The history of Herbert Hoover, well, I don't know. It was interesting for a while. We eventually ended up coming back here because Nancy, my wife, got a job here at Grand Canyon School. And so here I was, a guy with ranger training, which they could hire immediately. And I had the housing too. You know how good how many points that is. So I got that, and that was fun, being up here on the South Rim, being a ranger, because I knew the canyon. I can't see it so well, but I know it. It was fun fooling people. I know one of my favorite things to do was I'd be out at Yavapai Museum, and somebody would say, "Where's the river?" And I'd say, "Well, see that canyon coming in from the other side?" I can't see that canyon. But they'd say, "Oh yeah," because I know, I lived in Bright Angel Canyon. So I know it's there. And down the bottom, if you look to the left, you can see two little pools, and one of them has a bridge. If you look really carefully, I can't even see the pools. I can't see any of that stuff. but I could show people the canyon. And I had learned a lot of the history of it. Anyway, let me just say this. Guys, opportunity will be there for you. Opportunity will be there for you. And you can't know now where it's going to take you. And you can have a direction. I realize that most of you do. And that direction might be the way you go. But be open to the fact that things are going to change. Things are going to happen that could change your life. I mean, for me, how would I have known graduating from high school in Oklahoma City, a blind Sikh student, that someday I would be giving talks to sometimes thousands of people, inspiring them about the natural wonder of the great wonders of this natural beauty here, the world's Grand Canyon. How would I have known I would be able to do that someday? If you work at it, you have to work at it, but if you work at it, opportunity will take you to a place you want to be, and it'll give you a life you want to live. So you guys have an awesome life.